Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video game anime adaptations. And the anime we're going to talk about today is Objection! The Ace Attorney anime! And just to make this clear, because of the whole YouTube content ID thing, the clips are going to look a little weird. They might be stills, I might not use clips at all, but oh, don't worry, Content ID robot, there are no clips over here. Oh, believe me. Just go about your day. Okay, that's fine now. Anyways, I've been a huge Ace Attorney fan for over a decade, and because of the anime style of the games, like most people, I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if they made an anime version of this? And in a lot of the recent games, we've been getting a lot of anime cutscenes, and we even had a live-action movie in Japan. So when I finally heard in 2016 that they were going to make an Ace Attorney anime, I was pretty excited. I mean, it's been over a decade in the making. Now, I didn't exactly watch the anime when it first came out. I wanted to wait a little while so I can kind of binge watch it, so I waited until there were 15 episodes available, and then I binge watched them all at the gym, and then I started watching them weekly until the last episode came out. Now, the Ace Attorney games are usually about 15 to 20 hours in length because of the massive story, the massive amount of text, and the trial and error you have to go through in the trials. So condensing 15 to 20 hours of gameplay for about 2 games, because the anime covers the first Phoenix Wright and Justice for All. So they had to cram all of that down into 24 episodes. And because they had to cut down 15 to 20 hours of gameplay down into 24 episodes, there was a lot lost in the translation. We have entire cases skipped, entire characters removed, entire investigation scenes gone, all condensed down into 24 episodes. Now, before I started watching the anime, I was kind of reading some message boards, I was on Reddit, and a lot of the criticisms were like, it's just a straight-up adaptation of the games. It doesn't provide anything new or special. Well, when you think about the history of video game adaptations into cartoons and anime, they usually keep the same characters, kind of the same themes, but they do change the stories a lot, as evidenced by the Mega Man cartoon and the Street Fighter cartoon and the movies. But for me personally, I really enjoyed the fact that they did adapt the games rather than make a whole brand new story I wouldn't really be interested in. Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to finally see all your favorite characters and all your favorite cases moving and animated rather than the still sprites like this. Now they're like this. And also one of the big criticisms was, yeah, the characters are off-model. Well, I think every single anime fan knows this, but when it comes to anime, completely off-model characters are pretty common due to budgetary constraints. And the way they execute the anime is pretty well done. I mean, you get to see the characters handle evidence with gloves, which you obviously didn't see in the games. You get to see the court bailiffs arrest people. You also get to see extra police officers, and during the investigation scenes, you see screens in the courtroom showing evidence and maps. And the voice acting is pretty good for the most part. And I really do like the opening and ending animations, including their themes, which I can't play because of Content ID. Now, the Phoenix Wright games in America take place in Los Angeles, while in the Japanese version, they take place in Japan, obviously. But in the anime, it's very, very obvious that it takes place in Japan, especially when Maya says, "I want a burger," but you see ramen on the screen. Now, the music of the anime is completely original. I actually do like this theme. And they actually do use a couple of themes from the game, like this. 遺体を見つけたのは午後2時。この時間に間違いありませんか? And this. どうして時計が2時間も遅れていたか。その理由はこれです。And this. 最後に一つだけこれを見てください。 Well, now that you're watching an anime instead of having control of the game, it's kind of like you're playing the game on autopilot, but not that much because you still have the suspense of the games contained in the anime, and you still feel pretty suspenseful while you're watching the anime, which is one of the biggest concerns because being a fan of the games and watching anime, I already know what happens, but I want to see how it's executed. Now, I'm going to compare the cases of the game to how they were handled in the anime because there are a lot of differences and a lot of similarities. So case 1 with Frank Sawit was the pretty standard introduction episode. We get to see Phoenix Wright, Larry Butts, and Mia Fey, and Frank Sawit. But one of the big differences here is Frank Sawit doesn't throw his hair at Phoenix Wright like at the end of the first case. Instead, Phoenix does like objection, with a big wind effect, which is a pretty common theme in the series, and then Frank's hair just flies off like that. I really wish Frank threw his hair at Phoenix like he did in the game. Now for case 2 in the first game, which is my personal favorite case in the series, I really liked how they handled case 2, especially the part when Phoenix runs in the rain to the detention center saying he's going to defend Maya. I thought that added a lot more emotion to the scene as opposed to the game, which was already emotional enough. And I especially love how they handled Red White, who was the main villain in the case. I love how they actually made him speak English in the anime.
Yes, I do! Yes, we can!
Where in the game he speaks with really crazy vocabulary, which I'll show here. Also, the part where Red White punches Phoenix in the face isn't in the anime, and I think it would have been really funny to see that animated. And I actually do like how they animate alternate scenarios, like Phoenix actually going after Mia. Now, case 3 of the first game is where I felt the anime really rushed it. I do really like how they animated the Steel Samurai episode. But yeah, this episode really seems rushed, especially the investigation scene. I mean, it's cool we get to see Cody Hackins, we get to see Salmonella, but we don't get to see Penny Nichols talk. Now, case 4, I like the way they handled it. There were some changes that I didn't really agree with. For one, they got rid of Missile the dog, even though they show Missile the dog in the ending animation. And one of the things they took out of this is they took out the scene when Von Karma tasers you. I mean, that was one of the coolest scenes in the game, and they took it out. Yeah, and I would have really loved to see Von Karma bash his head across the wall. But yeah, they took that out too for some reason. And now, one of the biggest changes they did to the anime, they took out the 5th case of the game, because most fans know the 5th case on the DS version was actually a bonus case added because the original Game Boy Advance version of Gyakuten Saiban did not have a 5th case, but they added Rise of the Ashes for the DS release as more of as an incentive to buy the DS version. But kind of judging how long case 5 is, yeah, I kind of see why they cut it out, because it probably would have had to been its own OVA. Although Emma Sky does appear in future games, so I think if they're gonna adapt more episodes for the anime, they might wanna do an OVA of this. I mean, it would have been cool to see Gant clapping animated. Although we see a lot of Blue Badger in this series, which was introduced in Case 5 in the first game. Now, rather than getting Case 5 of the first game animated, we do get a really good flashback episode back to Phoenix, Larry, and Edgeworth's childhoods and how they became friends, especially the theme of the Signal Samurai with the keychains. I do like how those keychains were a symbol of Phoenix and Edgeworth's friendship, which they still carry on into adulthood. Now as we go into the second game, Justice for All, this is where I felt the anime got better at pacing, but I question a lot of the changes they made. For one, we got a really cool new opening sequence featuring the characters from the second game, and man, Phoenix, you are pretty acrobatic. And also, with the episodes that do cover the second game, they use a lot more of the in-game animations, but more animated this time, especially with Franziska Von Karma. And for some reason, when the anime covers the cases of the second game, they get rid of the psych locks for some reason. I mean, it would have been really cool to see those animated. When the anime starts covering the second game, they still use a lot of the music from the first game and a lot of the music from the previous episodes, and it would have been really cool to hear a lot of the music from the second game in the anime. Now, I don't know why we don't have the first case of the second game animated, because it would have been really cool to see this scene animated. It would have been really cool to see Maggie Bird animated. And it would have been really cool to see Richard Wellington choke himself animated. So we kind of start off the second game with the second case of the second game, where Phoenix goes to Karain Village and then Maya gets implicated for murder. The only change I saw they really did there was they changed Maya's channeling outfit to a white outfit, which wasn't really that big of a deal. And they also made the headpiece Maya was wearing a very crucial part of the case. Now, the third case of the second game is probably not one of my favorites, but I actually think they handled this in the anime a lot better than they did in the game. Although it was pretty cool that Phoenix was wearing his sweater from the third game. Because one of the things I liked what the anime did for the third case in the second game, they actually had Phoenix Wright demonstrate, kind of like a circus, like with the murder scenario, just like a circus. I mean, just take a look at it. And one thing the anime handled a lot better than the game was Regina Berry's remorse over the actions that led up to Case 3 of the second game. Yeah, in the game you see her cry, but in the anime you see her cry in court, really feeling remorseful for what she's done. She's begging to Acro, it's my fault, I should be the one being arrested here. It really does kind of, bring a tear to your eye in a way. Now, Case 4 of the second game, which I consider one of the best cases in the entire series, I liked how they handled it, but there were some things missing and some questionable things that they did. Now, they actually replaced Lotta Hart as the photographer with Larry Butts. I mean, I know Larry was missing from the second game, but I don't know why they made this change. I guess that was to make up for Larry not being in the second game. Now, one thing I would have really liked to see animated in this case was when Gumshoe actually gets fired and he's trying to work for Phoenix. That would have really been cool to see that animated, because it was one of my favorite parts of the fourth case. Now, a lot of people were really baffled by this change. Now, Celeste Inpox, who was a central character to this case, was changed to Celeste Andrews and was made into Adrian Andrews' sister. I mean, why? Because in the game, Celeste Inpox was Adrian Andrews' mentor, which gave Adrian a motivation to frame Matt and Juan, but the problem is, in the anime they made her into her sister, which, still gives the motivation for Adrian to get revenge on Matt and Juan, but I just don't know why they did this change. But one thing they did actually get right, or actually they did as epically, when Matt Engard reveals his true nature, which is one of the best parts in the entire Phoenix Wright series. They handled it really well in the anime, and they even put in the Cyclops animation, which, was weird because the Cyclops were missing in this entire series. Although Matt's not exactly flaunting his brandy that he just pulled out of wherever. And at the end of the trial, they did handle Matt's breakdown animation really well. Take a look. Yeah, so the Ace Attorney anime only went on for 24 episodes. I really think they could have made it a full 26 episodes so they can cover a lot of the stuff they were missing. But I don't know why they made it 24. Isn't it 26 usually for an anime? I don't really know. Yeah, so the Ace Attorney anime, I really liked how it turned out. It wasn't 100% perfect, and I really do feel it was made more for fans of the series rather than newcomers, so I don't really recommend it much to newcomers. I would recommend newcomers play the games first and then watch the anime kind of as a bonus. Yeah, so the good thing is you can watch every single episode of the Ace Attorney anime free on Crunchyroll. You can watch it subtitled with their original names like Naruhodo Ryuichi, and you can watch it subtitled with the American localized names like Phoenix Wright, Larry Butts, and there's also a home release in Japan, and because Funimation and Crunchyroll have teamed up, there is a very, very high chance that they will dub it, so we'll hear Sam Riegel as Phoenix Wright and Kyle Hebert as Miles Edgeworth. But however, if they do localize this anime, it's going to be very hard to hide the Japanese-ness of this because they're not going to have a graphic designer to completely edit out the graphics of the anime. They're going to have to kind of let it be unless they have the original animators completely Americanize it. Now, so right now the anime only covers the first 2 games, but if the home sales are good, I hope they do cover the 3rd and 4th games and pretty much everything else, especially the stuff we're missing. Yeah, so that wraps up this episode of Awesome Video Game Memories about the Ace Attorney anime, which I really recommend you check out, especially if you're a fan of the games. So if you have any thoughts about this anime, or if you have a request for a game that you want me to cover here on the show, make sure to leave those in the comments below. Take care.